I'm so sorry. I'm sorry that my microphone has been off. My apologies, guys. It is day 3 of the summit. We're jumping into it here, going right to operating at peak efficiency. All right. I'm not going to waste any more of your time with ridiculousness like my microphone not working. Operating at peak efficiency. It's all about control. Imagine what your mom and your dad was doing. You know, they wanted control over tiny little details, what time you were home, what things you ate, what classes you took. It's absolutely insane, but they had complete control and they could operate in an efficiency that they cared about. Right? You couldn't do the sport that took them 45 minutes to get you to practice. You had to do the sport that took 10 minutes to get to practice because they had to pick you up on the way home so they could pick up the siblings. Operating at peak efficiency is having full control over the situation. Olympic athletes do this perfectly. Right? To be the best in the field, they need complete control over everything, not just their bodies, their physical beings. They need to be controlled of their environments, controlling distractions, getting that away and stopping people from pulling them in 100 different directions. And they actually break apart their day to make sure that everything gets done as efficiently and effectively as possible. Oftentimes, they even outsource to somebody to do this so that they can fully focus on their craft. They pay somebody else to be responsible for controlling their time, making appointments, making sure they get somewhere wherever they need to go in the right time, in the right place. They hire people to feed them so they don't have to worry about cooking. Because thinking about it, if you have to do cooking, you also have to do research to find out what food is the best fit for you and your athletic style. And so if you can outsource, have somebody else do that, fantastic. Now, what we're going to do today is we're going to actually outsource you right now, the version of you right now, to be in charge of the version of you later. More on that in just a moment, all right? A wonderful CrossFit athlete, Derek Wedia, who is a veteran. He's an amazing CrossFit athlete. He is missing a leg. He's an amputee. He says, if you win the minute, you win the hour. If you win the hour, you win the day. You win the day, you win the week. You win the week, you win the month. You win the month, you win the year. Win the years, win at life. So win the minute. If you can control this 1 minute and push yourself, and be as perfect as you could possibly be this minute, you can do that for an hour, and then a day, and a week, and a year, and eventually a lifetime. So let's get really focused on being controlling of that minute of our time as best as we possibly can. So Michael Phelps, one of the greatest swimmers of all time, all right? I think it's 28 or 29 Olympic medals. This is his schedule. He'd wake up and eat. He'd visualize his goals and solidify his commitment to what he's doing. Work out in the pool right away. And then he'd eat again. He'd have a nap and recovery. He'd eat a third time already. He'd start setting his goals and keeping track of his targets, maybe some meditation. He'd exercise in the gym, recover with an ice bath, eat again, spend time with his family, relax and recover, and then sleep. And sometimes he'd eat while he was relaxing and recover just to sleep again. So if you feel like this is way too much for you to do in any given day, I'm going to break down your schedule for you to make sure you get everything you need to get done in a day without being overwhelmed. All right. Now, this was my schedule for the longest time. It's random. It's all over the place. It looks terrible. I want you to take a mental note, maybe even write it down now while I'm talking. What does your schedule look like? If you really had to break it down into half hours, into hours, what are you doing during that time? Are you wasting your morning on social media? Are you wasting 2 hours of lunch on Netflix? As entrepreneurs, it's easy to say, all right, well, I'm just going to take the day off today, right? If you don't have any sessions or schedules planned, you're going to say, I'm going to take the day off today. Very, very easy to do that. And that was my schedule for the longest time. I don't really know what I'm going to do today, so I'm just going to do this, and then maybe I'll do this, and then I'll move over to here. And so this is what happened. I'd sleep for 7 hours, which is the average. Then I'd wake up and take the dogs out and have breakfast. I'd do a little bit of training, either with breakfast or outside of breakfast. And then I would do some recordings. So I'd usually record my podcast in the morning. So I'd do my podcast or a YouTube video or something like that. Then I'd have an early morning meeting with somebody. I'd do some phone calls. We're trying to reach out to people. Then I'd do training with my own dogs later in the afternoon. Then I'd have some family time mixed in there. Then I'd have a meeting or two in the afternoon, and then another recording, and then an email. And then I'm thinking of, the admin stuff at the end of the day when I'm tired. So things never got the ball rolling. Now, this all changed. At some point, my business was not doing well, and that's because I was all over the place. My schedule was absolutely ridiculous. And so you can see I only have 2 hours really of meetings and 2 hours of recordings. I can't get much done. I'm doing 2 sessions a week, a day, whatever it is. So this changed. My business wasn't doing well. We needed more money, so I ended up working at McDonald's overnight. This was during the first year of the business. So I'm working at McDonald's overnight. I'm doing 8 hours. I'm working from 8 o'clock at night until 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'd have dinner while I was at work. All right. So if you can see here, I don't know, guys. Yeah, you can see my cursor. So I got this huge chunk here of 3 or 4 hours, 3 hours. Then I have a half hour dinner, and then I'd work for another 6 hours. So about 8 to 9 hours I'm working at McDonald's. Then I'd sleep for 4 hours. I'd wake up and I'd have breakfast or I'd do something. Then I'd do training with the pups because I got to do the training with them. Then I might have a meeting in the morning right before lunch. But really, I would just take a nap during lunch because I was so tired. So I'd take a nap, and then I'd have family time with my son or with his mom, and then I'd do phone calls and meetings right before going back to work. So again, I'm only getting a couple of phone calls in. I'm getting 1-2 meetings max, but I'm working 10 times harder because I still haven't figured out how to structure my schedule. This is when things started to go like just explode out of the atmosphere. I was able to structure my schedule that much better. And this is the schedule I still keep to this day. So you can steal this schedule or we can use it as we're going to do more about schedule in just a minute. And we're going to craft your own schedule. So I structured and controlled down to the minute. Everything I could possibly do to structure this, I did. And so this is what it looks like. I get my 7 hours. I get my beautiful 7 hours. It's usually from like midnight until 7 in the morning, sometimes 11 to 6, sometimes 10 to 4, depending on what it is. I really only sleep for 7 hours. Then I wake up and I immediately get to work. So my desk, where it is right now, is right next to my bed. I get out of bed and I come sit at the desk. That might not work for you. It works for me. My brain is still in this dreamy kind of state. Right? I'm just waking up. I feel refreshed. I'm like, okay, cool. I got this energy. Jump right into work. Then I have breakfast and I work with the dogs. So, I've gotten most of my deep work done, and now I can sit and relax. My son's waking up at this time. My dogs are excited. They want to go do something. So I'll do some breakfast training with them, and I'll hang out with my son. Then I start doing phone calls right away. Right after that, I'm doing phone calls. I'm reaching out to people. Maybe I'm calling shelters. Maybe I'm calling rescues. I'm calling, potential clients, past clients, all that kind of stuff. I just do my phone calls early in the morning because I hate calling people. Phone calls for me is difficult. So if I get it out of the way, I feel much better about myself. And also, I can enjoy the rest of my day without having to think about doing these phone calls later. Then I do my recording, whether it's video recordings, audio recordings, if I'm working on a new course, if I'm doing a summit live like this, right? If I'm doing my podcast, if I'm going to be, audio book, something like that. Whatever I'm doing recording-wise, I do during that time because now that I've played and hung out with my son, he can hang out and do his thing, and I can record. Then I have lunch. So right after that, my voice is a little raspy after talking so much. So then I'll have lunch, I'll sit down with my son, and we have more family time. So that hour or so, it's about a half hour for lunch. We'll sit and we'll watch something together while we eat, and then we'll play a game for about a half hour. And then I have meetings. So my meetings are all in that later part of the afternoon. This is usually when people are getting home from work. Maybe they worked in the morning and they're going to be done around 2, 3, maybe even 5 o'clock. So I do all these meetings, and then right at dinner time, I'm done with my work for the day. And I completely remove myself from working, and I just spend time with my family. I get a good 4 or 5 hours with my family every single day. So I do that so that I can sleep peacefully. I help my son get to bed, bath time, all that kind of stuff, and then I go to sleep and I do it the next day. So what you're noticing here is I'm not shifting my brain all over the place. There's a structure, there's a system in place that makes it easier for me to do this. So what you want to do is create this ahead of time. And then when you wake up in the morning, you got deep work, you're going to do breakfast, you're going to do your hour and a half of phone calls, you're going to do 2 hours of recording, you're going to have lunch, you're going to have your meetings, and then your family time. It's all planned out for you. You don't have to wake up in the morning and go, what am I going to do today? You know exactly what you're going to do. And then all you do is in those blocks, you figure out, well, what's the deep work going to be? Who am I going to call for the phone calls? What am I going to record? What kind of meetings am I going to have? Is it going to be discovery call meetings and sales presentations? Or is it going to be meetings of clients that I already have who I need to fulfill on the promise of the service? Whatever it may be. So I want you to look at these 3 and see which one looks the most simple. The first one, there's so many colors going on. It's very, very intense, right? And I'm not happy in the picture, clearly. The second one, it's a little better. There's really only 2 colors, but there's some variations in those colors, and it's not perfect yet. I was starting to get it, but it wasn't perfect day. Now I have this perfect streamlined structure. Breakfast and lunch and dinner are all laid out. Family time's laid out. My work gets done. My recording gets done, and I get to sleep a good chunk of time. So in order to do this, you need to have that leveler mindset. Remember, we talked about the personality types. Levelers are interested in solving the problem. So to do this effectively, you have to look at things logically and with reasoning, but focus and reflect on what the problem is and how we can improve. You can't blame anybody else for this. You are in complete control of your time. It's really the only thing you are in complete control over, right? The stock market go up and down, so the money might not be the same. Your computer might not be working. The internet might be out, whatever it may be. The weather might be terrible, so you can't go outside and film. You can control your time, though. It's really the only thing that you have control over. No one else has control over your time. Unless you're going to work where they're paying you for your time, you still have control over it. You could say yes or no. You could say, I'm not coming in today. I got better things to do. All right. You are in complete control of your time. So what I want you to do is write down all of the excuses you have, all of the problems that come up, right? You don't have enough time. You don't have the tools you need. You're not sure of what you should be doing. You're afraid of failing. Everybody's afraid of failing. You're not smart enough. You are smart enough. You know exactly what you need to do. All right. You don't have the authority to charge those prices. Nobody has the authority to charge any price for anything, but they do. Right? Because you know how to build value. So you can charge any price that you feel is worthy. And when you feel it's worthy of that, you'll sell it that much easier. We're going to talk about selling tomorrow. You keep getting distracted. Well, that's a problem. We need to fix that. Your computer isn't fast enough. You don't have the money, or you need more experience. All of those things can then be solved. So once you have a list of your excuses and the problems you're dealing with, you need to think about how you can solve them. All right. This is going to make you a better person, a better business owner, and most importantly, a better trainer. You're going to be better positioned to help your clients since you understand what they might be going through, right? They don't feel smart enough. They don't feel that they can stay focused on the task and they keep getting distracted, right? They don't have the experience to work with the dog, so they feel like they have to outsource and do a board and train. So the more you understand what you are struggling with as a human being, the easier it'll be for you to connect with your potential clients and real clients. Now, this book is really what formulated this concept for me. It's called Extreme Ownership. Jocko Willink and Leif Babin are fantastic in their storytelling here. They were U.S. Navy SEALs, and they learned about leadership and going through hard times together and how to really take ownership, extreme ownership over the situation in order to lead effectively. And I read this when I first became a father. I was 20 years old. I was having my son. And looking at it, I was like, okay, I need to take responsibility for this. I need to be in charge of everything. I'm now a dad. I can't put the blame on anyone else. I can't blame my son. I can't blame the situation, the economy, anything. Like, I have to take care of him. And so I read this book. I remember sitting in the hospital the day after he was born. I was holding him in one arm and this book in the other arm. All right. And what I learned from this was that if you take complete ownership, extreme ownership of everything, you can control and do something about the situation you're in. If you don't take ownership about it, right, you put the blame onto someone else, there's nothing you can do because it's out of your hands. If I were to say, right, the power went out right now, it's not that I don't have a generator, right? I should have a generator to make sure the power stays on, but I can only make that decision if I have ownership about it. If I say I'm in charge of the electricity being on, I should have a generator to make sure that I have the electricity. I can't say, well, it's the power plant's problem and they got to fix it. Right? That's putting blame onto someone else. And I have no control over the electricity at that point. I'm completely reliant on somebody else instead of being self-reliant. So I want you to look at all those problems you wrote down. Your computer's too slow. Well, whose fault is it? It's my fault. I bought a slow computer. All right. You don't know how to make your computer faster. You have to learn how to make your computer faster. This was the biggest problem for me. My computer has been the limitation in my business for the longest time. And the problem was I didn't buy the right computer because I didn't know what I should be looking for. All the specs and the different requirements for a computer to operate at a certain level. So then I had to figure out, well, how can I make my computer faster? What could I do? Because I don't want to buy a new computer. All my stuff is on this computer and I don't want to transfer it over just yet until I know exactly what computer I want. So how can I make my computer faster? Can I delete things? Can I, put a fan behind it to keep it cool? What can I do in order to improve the quality of my computer and the resources I currently have? All right. And any of the other problems or excuses that you have, you need to then work out. You need to solve the solution for, right? So if your client's dog is not responding to training well, you need to figure out how. You need to take complete responsibility for how your client's dog is learning, right? Maybe they're missing something. Maybe you need to change your system. Maybe they need more support. Maybe they need someone to text them every day saying, hey, get out there and train, because they're actually not training. You need to be in responsible position for that. You need to fix all of those problems, all right? Remember, your value goes up when you help people solve their problems. So if you go above and beyond and take on their problems of not figuring out when they should be training in their schedule, your value will go up. Hey, I'm going to look at your schedule and pinpoint on your calendar when you should be working. That's a fantastic way to improve your value as a dog trainer. So, how do we control time? This is what's called time blocking. That's my favorite technique. Everybody should do it. That's exactly what happened in the diagram. I figured out how to time block, all right? What I want you to do is take the schedule the way you have it right now. You can open up your calendar on your phone, on another screen, in the desktop, whatever it is. And I want you to either take a screenshot of it and then start circling and coordinating and all that kind of stuff, or you can just write it down. But you're going to color coordinate all the items in your calendar. Then you're going to move your calendar around until most like colors are next to each other. There are some similar limitations to this, eating, other people's schedules, that kind of thing. But what I really want you to focus on is putting as many colors together as possible. Now, I started using this first in college. All right, so all the classes were fixed, but everything else was blocked off and I could move things around. You see it's the very similar colors, and I think I used only 6 or 7 colors here. But what I'm doing is trying to make things as close together as possible in relation as well as location. So I tried to put things in the same area as the previous or the next event, so I'm not running around all over the place. You should not be going from an in-person to a virtual to an in-person. You should be doing 2 in-persons and then a virtual and a virtual, that kind of thing. Okay? If you're going to be sitting at your desk, well, write out your emails and your phone calls at the same time. Don't do your emails, then go do something else with your dog and then come back and do phone calls. Just, you're already at your desk. Chunk it all together, get it all done at once, and then move on. And so in this case, in some of these situations, right, breakfast and the canine training and training Toby and all these things all together were in one building. Then I would move from lunch to studying over so that I was in a different part of the campus during college, and I'd have a one-on-one session with my RD who was in charge of the building. And then right next to that building was the American Sign Language building. And I'd move literally across the street to go have dinner, and then I'd walk up the hill to the equestrian barn where I'd ride horses. So everything is moving in the most efficient path possible, because I don't want to have to go back and forth from one building all the way across the campus to the next, all the way across the campus to the next one. Just try to time block as much as you can. If you're going to be at your desk, do everything you could possibly do at your desk once. And that was the deep work for me. Once I wake up in the morning, deep work, that's what I'm doing. I'm sitting at my desk and doing it. Then I'm going to do my training. Then I'm going to do my phone calls and recording. All those things are time blocked in a way that made the most amount of sense to me, instead of jumping back and forth, right? If I woke up in the morning and had 2 hours of family time with my son, and then I'd do a couple of emails or phone calls, then I'd go outside and train the dogs, and then I come back in, and then I get to more family time, I'm all over the place. Time blocking is crucial if you want to operate at peak efficiency, all right? Now, what time blocking also enables you to do is stay on time, right? If you're running around, being all over the place, it comes across as lazy. Right? You can't operate a business when you're all over the place. It seems disingenuous. It seems disorganized. It seems unprofessional. You're not considerate of your client's time or your time, really. Timing is so important. Why should your client care about your time if you don't care about their time? Right? If you time block and you know you're going to be sitting in front of a computer for 2 hours doing virtual sessions, there's no way you can be late. As long as you end the session on time and start the session on time, you're good. But if you're going from an in-person session to a virtual, you got a concern about traffic. You're concerned about leaving that session late or early. You're concerned about not having your system set up, right? Your studio set up. So you're again all over the place, discombobulated, unprofessional. So you have to stay on time. If you have to leave a minute earlier, say you got to leave a minute earlier from a session, make sure you are on time. Value your client's time. They're there on time. You should be there on time. All right. Now, lazy, it comes across as perceived laziness. All right. And sometimes people get lazy when you're doing a session after session after session after session. And you're all over the place. You're like, oh my God, I'm so worn down. And it comes across as lazy. But lazy is just a symptom of a deeper problem. It's either you're unmotivated, you forgot why you're doing this, or you don't see the success or rewards of your labors. If you were motivated, if you knew why you were doing this and you saw success constantly, there's no way you'd be lazy. You'd be running to everything because everything feels so good. All right? So if you're unmotivated at some point or another, it's going to happen. This is where your discipline will come into play. Extreme ownership again, right? I need to take control of everything. If motivation gets you up and out and started, good. Then do it, right? Put on some motivating music, listen to a podcast, listen to an audiobook that helps you. Whatever you need to do to jumpstart, fantastic. But where motivation fails, discipline begins, right? Sending out 200 emails every day isn't particularly enjoyable. Calling 300 people isn't particularly enjoyable. But if that's what you need to do in order to get a certain number of clients in so that you can keep the doors open and the business running, then that's what you got to do. All right? The more you do while you're disciplined, the more motivated you will get by your success. So if you do things when you don't feel like it, you'll get results that will push the motivation upward. Right? You don't feel like doing the 300 phone calls, but when you do them, you get 7 new clients and they're each worth $1,000 to you. That's $7,000 because you were disciplined. That's motivating to keep going and call the next 300 people. All right? Now, the other 2 reasons is you forgot why you're doing this, right? Every day I write down my goals right before I jump into my deep work to remind myself while I'm doing this, right? What are my goals? What are my targets? What are my past achievements? You should be writing these things down every single day. And anytime you feel lost, you feel unmotivated, you feel like, why am I doing this? Like, this doesn't make any sense. This is useless. You want to write down your goals, your targets, and your past achievements. All right, it's going to remind you of the light at the end of the tunnel. Being a business owner is very, very difficult, but you want to remind yourself of all the reasons why it's fantastic and worth it in the end. You're the freedom to be your own boss. You get to do things your way. You get to help others in a humane training version, right? They could go to some other trainer. I was working with a trainer last month, and he started to get down, and he was like, I don't understand why I'm doing this. And I said, because the last trainer you worked for was just completely obliterating these dogs' confidence. These dogs were shutting down, and you didn't want to do that. That's why you started your own business. Once I reminded of them that, lit up. He was like, yes, okay, fantastic, let's go do it. So what do you do this for? Every single day, you've got to remind yourself. And last is that you don't see the success or rewards from your labor, right? You're like, okay, I'm doing all this work. I've been doing this work for 6 months, and I don't feel like I'm getting anything out of it. Go read all the testimonials that you have. It lights me up every single day when I do it. Someone saying, I learned something a year ago from him and I just used another piece of it this morning and my dog's fantastic and now we're starting our service dog training, or we just went hiking because my dog, has gone through the reactivity program and now we get to do all this fun stuff. Right? You want to read through those things. You want to remind yourself of what your coaching is capable of, what your training is capable of. And it's going to help push you to want to help more dog owners and more dog trainers and more dogs in general. All right. Now, if you don't have testimonials, think about any of the dogs you've trained either in your personal life or if you're helping people, right? If you're just starting out, what have you helped them with? What problems did you solve with your own dogs? How did you feel when you reached those goals? Did it feel good? Did it feel exciting? You're like, yeah, I finally did it. That's what someone would say about your coaching program if they took it. And the more people you help, the more rewarded you'll feel, and this is going to a snowball effect. It's just going to keep going. So you want to boost yourself up with motivation, keep it with discipline, and that will continue the ball moving forward. Now, as someone who needs to control their time, you need to learn how to say no. This honestly was one of the hardest things for me to do when I was in college and then when I first got out of college. And I think it's because of my upbringing as a child. I was told not to say no, just say, yep, go along with it. We'll figure it out later. So if you're struggling with this, I completely understand. Trying to say no to somebody when they're asking so politely and they're being so genuine about needing help can be very, very difficult. But learning to say no is not only good for your business, but also your personal health. So sometimes it is necessary. All right. If you don't have the time to work with somebody or they're not your ideal client, so you'd have to fix everything about your business to help them, then you need to say no. Right? Too many times I've worked with trainers who are exhausted from working that they forget to eat or take a break, and it shows. I was working with a trainer at a facility, and she would just completely disregard her mealtime. She got an hour break to have lunch every single day, and she would disregard it to do 2 or 3 more sessions because she felt bad that someone had to wait 2 weeks to get in because they didn't schedule. So what ends up happening is the training quality goes down, your communication efforts go down, your wherewithal goes down if you're trying to do a sales presentation and you got to hold in on the close, right? They're really pushing back saying, I don't want to do it, but I need it. And can you get the price any lower? Your wherewithal will just go, sure, I could do it for $5, right? Because you don't have the energy. You don't have the energy anymore. Your health is going to go down, mental health, and your discipline goes down. Remember, where motivation fails, discipline prevails. Discipline begins there. So if your discipline goes down, how are you going to stay motivated tomorrow? You're not. You're going to sink. Everything's going to go down. And so we need to say no when it's in our best interest. How do you say no? You just practice in every situation, in and out of business context, in your personal life. Just practice saying no to people. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable saying no to people. Right? If you're already if you're already comfortable in saying no, see if there's a nicer way to say no. Right? Your goal isn't to be rude, say no, can't do it, but rather to help create boundaries. No, unfortunately, I can't do it right now. No, unfortunately, our scheduling is closed. So there's someone wants to do a session with you. Let's just go through an example here. When you're off, how would you say no? You've already decided your day off is for relaxing. You're not doing sessions. You're not taking anybody on. And this is one of those things you have to be a control freak about. This is my day off. Nobody is coming in. I'm not doing any sessions. It's not happening. All right. And that's what that other trainer didn't understand. She'd block out these times and then completely disregard them. Some people say, make it look like you have a doctor's appointment in your brain. It's like, well, I could cancel a doctor's appointment. So I don't like that. You just have to be, this is my time. And nobody is coming in and stealing my time away from me, because then I cannot provide the best service possible to the clientele that's scheduled already, right? So saying no and taking the time off is actually going to help you. It's going to help you make the best version for the next day. So you say something like, no, unfortunately, I don't have any sessions available that day. Does Tuesday at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. work better for you? Right, so maybe you just push them to next week, or you push them to the day after. That's totally fine. You want to, again, take control of everything. So you say, no, unfortunately, I don't have time that day, because you don't. You've already blocked out that day. Let me pick another day for you. All right? So it's extreme ownership and action. Take responsibility for finding the time for them. What time? What works best for you? Instead of having them guess over and over, hey, can we do tomorrow? No, unfortunately, I can't do tomorrow. Hey, can we do the day after that? No, I can't do the day after that. Just take control. No, I can't do tomorrow, but I can do Monday from 6 to 7. Right? You want to take control over everything. Nobody knows your schedule better than you. Nobody knows your schedule better than you. You are the master of the schedule. You are in complete control of everything. That means that if you're using time blocking, right, you should not have to run around from one thing to the next. You should not be doing in-persons and then virtual and then in-person at the park and then virtual. Session, then virtual, virtual, virtual. That's the way it should work. So if someone wants to schedule with you, you can say, no, I'm doing in-persons at that time. I'm doing virtuals at this time. You can be in control of that. All right. So again, you want to control the options as well. My favorite line, does Tuesday or Thursday at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. work better for you? Say it with me. Does Tuesday or Thursday at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. work better for you? You want to practice that until it's ingrained in your head. And I'm only going to be using surrounding areas because I'm using time blocking. So if someone says, no, that doesn't work for me, I could go, okay, does 5 p.m. or 8 p.m. work better for Tuesday and Thursday? I could go slightly before the time I gave them or slightly after to see if that works. Or I can pick another day, as long as it fits into the time blocking section that I laid out. Right? Now, if you have no appointments and you have no obligations, you got all the time in the world, still do this. Still time block. You have so much to worry about as a business owner. You still want to time block, right? If all my coaching sessions are from Tuesday to Saturday, 4 p.m. to 9, then I won't schedule someone on Monday at 8 a.m. Because Monday at 8 a.m., I got to do something else for the business. I got to do phone calls. Maybe I want to keep that time open for sales demonstrations. Maybe I want to keep that time open for recording. Maybe I just want to take the Monday off. And that's why I only do Tuesday to Saturday, whatever it may be, right? My weekend might be Sunday to Monday. People don't know what your schedule is. You do. You are in complete control of it. All right. So your client literally has no idea why they can't meet with you on Monday at 8 a.m. They just know that they can't meet with you. And there has to be some other option. There has to be some other explanation. And frankly, as a dog owner, as a business owner, you don't have to explain or have an excuse as to why. Right? Someone might give you a hard time. I've never had anybody give me a hard time. Oh, I can't do Monday at 8. Why? I just can't. I don't have that available. Now, if I immediately move into, I can do Tuesday from 6 to 7. I take that, argumentative situation away from it. I just remove that completely because I'm giving them options. I'm giving them alternatives. Well, I can only do Monday at 8. Well, I'm sorry, I don't have that availability. I can schedule you for next week. No. That's fine. If I lose a client because they only have 5 minutes to do it, then I don't want that client because that means they have no time to train their dog, right? Thinking of it from a umbrella overview, sky picture. If they don't have the time to meet with me at any other time besides this 30-minute window, then they have no time to train their dog. And that means my methods aren't going to work for them, and a board and train might be better for them. It might fit their situation just a little bit better, all right? Now, how do you deal with some last-minute changes? Right? Do you have a cancellation fee? Do you, charge people? Do they lose the session? Personally, I don't like taking people's money for nothing. So when someone cancels or no-shows, they just have to reschedule. That's just the way that I do it. The only stipulation I have is that you can't reschedule for this week because you've taken up an hour block, which means someone else couldn't get in. So it's just, you got to wait until next week. That's the only stipulation I have. But I don't want to take their money and say, well, you lose the session. Because if I only have 6 sessions and they miss 2 of them, now we're down to 4 sessions. I'm not going to be able to give them a full transformation in 4 sessions, which is why the sessions are 6. All right? I don't want to lose weeks and weeks because someone is scheduling and canceling and no-showing and all that stuff. So I always have them schedule for the next week. I do prefer early cancellations so I can get other clients in. So you might want to incentivize this by allowing people to reschedule within the week if they cancel 24 hours in advance. Right? So this creates a win-win-win situation. Essentially, let's say Bob wants to cancel their Monday session, but they let me know on Sunday. I say, absolutely, Bob, we can cancel your Monday session. Can you do Thursday? Yeah, I can do Thursday. So I put Bob in on Thursday. And now I can call around for the people who are next week, say, hey, I have an availability on Monday. Does someone want to come in on Monday instead of waiting till next week? Boom. Now I can get a session in and I can fill that spot, which benefits me during time blocking because now I don't have this random hour of nothing. I still have my good chunk of time blocking for virtual sessions. And I make the client happy. And Bob got to have a new appointment that actually fit his schedule better within the week. He didn't have to wait another week. Right? If he calls me Monday morning and says, hey, I can't come in till later on today, I might not have enough time to get someone to fill that spot. So now I'm wasting an hour. And Susie Q, who was scheduled next week, can't get in because she didn't see my email fast enough. So that's a lose-lose. But if we can incentivize people to reschedule immediately once they know, I got a conflict, let me reschedule, that's the best way to do it. We create a win-win situation. Now, you're either going to play catch-up or you're going to get ahead in the realm of online dog training. All right. And now I worked at a facility where we trained roughly 36 dogs a day every day for the 2 years that I worked there. We were constantly training dogs. When someone showed up early, we weren't actively training with someone else. We took them right away. This means that our clients feel happy because they're not waiting around, just kind of twiddling their thumbs. And we can also get them in and out faster, which means we can get to the next person faster. We could essentially chunk everything down and have more time later. Instead of 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, 5 minutes there, we could have more time. We could stack a 30-minute break together. If, I finish a session and it takes 5 minutes to get to the next session, and then I finish that one and then it's 5 minutes, I'm getting 5 minutes here and there, which is fine, but it's not as good as a 30-minute break if we're talking about breaks, or 30 minutes to do something else. You can't really get much done in 5 minutes, but I could clean the bathroom in 30. Can't really do that in 5 minutes. I can maybe stack papers in 5 minutes, just not enough time, right? So your goal should always be to get ahead of schedule. Instead of waiting for that next session, call the client, see if they're ready to get started now. If you chunk out an hour for the virtual session and you finish in 45, you got 15 minutes. Sure, you could do something. Or you could call the next client and say, hey, do you want to get started 15 minutes early? If not, that's totally fine. I'll see you on the hour. But if you want to get started now, we can jump right in, get you in and out. You can go about your day. Right? Do things now as much as possible. All right? You have places to be, you have people to help. Do things now. The second you think about it, do it. It's so easy to get caught up in something and have to play catch up. It's so insanely easy. You're in the middle of something. You're not looking at the clock. You're all over the place. But this never paints you in a good light, right? It always seems bad. It always looks, again, lazy, unprofessional. And so you never want to take away someone's session to try and catch up. It will always end poorly. And I hate when trainers do this, right? So they might have started a session 10 minutes late, and then they'll still end it on time. That's not fair. Right? So if it's sessions from 1 to 2 and I start at 1:10 and I still end at 2, I just gypped you of the hour that you paid for. It never looks good. And most people might not notice. They're like, oh, okay, like whatever. But the people who do notice are definitely going to say something, and they're going to be frustrated about it. And so it's better for you to be honest and say, well, you paid for the hour, so I'm going to give you an hour. And it also hurts you, so you're not going to want to do it again, right? Positive punishment. Because then you're going to be late to the next session, and then you have to do them over, and then you're going to be late to the next one. But you always want to get ahead. Always try to move forward with your time and say no when you're going over. So if you went over the last session and that's why you were 10 minutes late to this next one, don't go over next time. You're going to have to practice some phrases and communicating with people and saying, hey, I got to go to my next session. Let's continue this conversation either on text or in our next session. This habit that you create will make your life easier. But you have to create the coaching client connection of, hey, our time ends at this, at whatever time it is. This is when our session ends today. I have to move on to my next session. Showing that you run a tight ship will show your clients that you have respect of their time, you have respect of all of your clients' time, that you value your time and you're not going to be frivolous with it. Right? So they go, okay, I know exactly what I'm getting. I know exactly what I'm paying for. This guy or this gal is really on top of their stuff. And that shows a lot of value. Right? So all you got to do is say, hey, I got to move on to my next session. You can send me a call. You can send me a video. You can send me an email. And we can talk about it in the next session, or we can talk about it through other mediums. I just got to jump into my next session right now. When do we want to continue? Right? When do we want the next session? We want to do next week, or we want to do 2 weeks out, whatever it may be. Now, once you've controlled time, you need to control tasks. I used to use to-do lists. Now I hate them. I used to have an ongoing list on my phone, and it never got completed. Instead, once you finish a task, actually, hold on. Once you finish a task, a new one takes its place. Right? So when you have a to-do list, you're like, okay, I did X, Y, and Z, and now I have A, B, C to do. It's terrible. It's the same as if you're playing a video game and it just got harder and harder no matter what you did. But yeah, okay, it's cool to kind of see how far you've gone, but you're never going to win. It's just how long you can keep going. It's not satisfying. There's no end result about this. So instead of doing that, I want you to write down everything you do get done. Right? So writing down your goals or remembering your successes, done lists help you realize how much you've actually accomplished. Right? So if I just had a piece of paper next to me and I said, well, I did my summit today, and I did my Q&A session today, and I reached out to 150 people, and I called 16 people already, and I played for 3 hours with my son. Now, at the end of the day, I look back at that and I go, wow, I accomplished a lot today. And so tomorrow I'm motivated to accomplish even more. Right? So it's called a to-done list instead of a to-do list. But if you don't have a to-do list, how do you know what needs to get done? I'm glad you asked. Systems. All right. Once again, systems are your best friend. Let's look at a few that will help you stay on task to get more done than you ever thought possible. Number one, actually, literally number one, is called the one thing. Think about what is the one thing that if you did, it would move your business forward. Building an online coaching program. That's why you're here. Right? Prospecting for more clients. What's the one thing I could do right now to get more money in the door? I could call 15 shelters. Boom. Starting a YouTube channel. What's the one thing I could do right now to increase my online marketing? Make a YouTube channel and start posting videos. Right? Brainstorm new ideas. Even this right now is brainstorming new ideas. Raise your prices. So sitting down and doing the math, figuring out how can I maximize my profit without going overboard and making people not want to buy anything because it's way too expensive. Creating ad copy or videos for Facebook and YouTube and Google. You could fix your website. You could create an email sequence. Right? You could work with shelters and rescues. All you got to do is think as big as possible. What's the one thing, if I did that today, would drive my business forward? Right? My other favorite, absolute favorite method is the 2-minute rule. If you can do it within 2 minutes, do it while you think about it. So if you go, oh man, I got to email that person, just email that person. Don't put it on a to-do list. Oh, I got to email that person. Let me write it down and I'll get to it later. Just email them right now. Now, you might want to time block emails, and that's a fine way to do it. Just know that when you're sitting down to do the emails, you have to go back and think. Right? You're like, all right, I was supposed to email this person. I was supposed to email this person. Instead, email them when you think about it and use that email time either for something else or use that email time to respond to emails that came in. Because if I email Joe Schmo and I have an email time blocked, when I sit down for the time block, he's probably responded. But if I only reach out to him during the email time block, now I got to wait until maybe tomorrow. I got to wait until later to get it. If I do it right now when I'm thinking about it, I can send it out to him. Now, all I'm doing is waiting for him to come back to me. All right? Reaching out to clients is good. Sending a video to someone. Hey, what's going on? I'm doing this thing. Do you want to come to it? We could do some training, whatever it is. Just send a video to someone. Posting on social media is great. Responding to a support text or emails. The second someone emails you, don't say, all right, I'll do that later. Just do it right now. This is the hardest thing for me to do, but it was one of the best things. If it took me less than 2 minutes to do, I should do it. Scheduling the next session. I don't know how many times I forgot to do this in the beginning. It'd be the end of the session. Hey, I got to run to my next session. And I'd go to run and I would forget to schedule the first people's session. So before I did that, hey, what time are we meeting? Next week or the week after? And I would just do it right then and there. It takes 30 seconds. I'm already in front of them. We're already talking about it. But if I have to write it down and then go put it in later, I might as well just do it now. Even if I'm 2 minutes late to my next session. Right? I would much rather have it had been done so I don't have to think about it later, because I might have to schedule 10 people at the end of the day. That's 20 minutes. I'm not doing that, right? If I just did it there and there and there, right at the end of the session, or maybe even the beginning of the session, if you know you're going to forget, just do it in the beginning of the session. Time blocking your day should take 2 minutes. The second you think, oh man, I should really restructure my day, boom, grab the calendar, start doing it. Writing down your goals. Oh, Michael said I should write down my goals every day. Write down your goals, 2 minutes, 2 seconds. Right? It should not be this really long thing. Brainstorming new ideas. This is actually slightly different than the brainstorming new ideas for the one thing. In this case, set a timer for 2 minutes and get everything out of your brain that you possibly can. This is one of my favorite ideas when I'm thinking of some massive stuff. I'm like, well, what could I do this? Like, how could I do this? Well, I could do this and I could do that. And, I want to teleport to people's houses and I want to fly over there. So these are big, big ideas that I have. And I just try to get as many out of my brain as possible in 2 minutes. I clearly can't implement flying to someone's house in 2 minutes, but I can brainstorm the ideas and how I might be able to do it in 2 minutes. My mom always used to say, daylight's a wasting, right? My mom loves the sun. She loves the beach. She actually texted me this morning and that it was the longest day of the year. But she always used to say daylight's a wasting. And what she actually meant was move with some urgency. Right? The faster you get things done, the more you get done. So if I was sweeping the living room really slow, come on, daylight's a wasting. Let's go. I was taking too long to get to the car. Daylight's a wasting. Essentially, the day's going to be over by the time you get done with that. If you get stuff done, you can get more stuff done. All right? There's a reward loop in it. If I clean the whole house, I go, man, the house looks really good. Well, I'm gonna clean the yard. Oh, that looks really good. I'm gonna bathe the dogs. And it just keeps going. Right? You get more done, you want to get more done. But time is infinite, so you are going to run out of time eventually. In the day, in the week, in the month, in the year, eventually in life. Time is running out. Daylight's a wasting. Tell yourself that every day. So move with some urgency. Put a limit on how long you can work on something, and then get as much as done as you possibly can. So, like with the brainstorming for 2 minutes, set a 5-minute timer and see how many emails you can get out in 5 minutes. Right? This is often shorter than you think is required is actually the secret to it. So if you think you can send 100 emails out in an hour, see if you can do it in 45 minutes or a half hour. You want to do a lot shorter. Even if you don't get the full thing done, you get way more done than what you would have. So if I sat down and I was going to send out 100 emails, and I thought it was going to take me an hour, and I tried to do it in a half hour, I'm going to get maybe 50 emails done in that half hour. Now that's, kind of in line with the 100, and that's what we think would happen. What actually happens is we do slightly more because we're rushing. You're like, I got to get to 100. And so we end up typing faster, and we get in this flow state, and our brain starts pushing. Right? If you ever, I don't know if everyone's done this, I do this quite often. If you've ever watched YouTube, at the bottom right, there is a settings icon. You can watch things twice as fast. When I do that, my brain catches up. And everything else seems to go really slow, and the video I'm watching seems to be going at a normal pace. Right? It's 2 times the speed, but to me it seems like it's going at a normal pace. That's what happens when you could push forward like that. When you force yourself to do everything at twice the speed, your brain catches up. And it's like, okay, I got it. Let's keep moving. Let's keep moving. All right? So most people procrastinate because they have too much time. Well, I got an hour to reach 100 people. I'll just do like 2 a minute. It's like, no. I got a half hour to read 100 people. I got to do 4 a minute. So I'm going to type away. I'm going to voice text. That's another fantastic thing about this is you'll figure out the faster way to do something. I write most of my emails by talking into my phone, and it types it out, and then I just edit it and I send it. All right? Bet you didn't think of that, right? So your brain actually gets better at this the more you do it, and you'll find more efficient ways to do this. And when you find those efficient ways, you want to make them habits. Right? Why do our dogs listen when we ask them to do something? It's habitual. They figured out, I just do this thing and I get a reward. So if you can create habits around what is the most important thing, you will no longer have to think about it. Right? If you're like, well, I got to stay hydrated and I got to brush my teeth every day, all you got to do is make that a habit, and then you don't have to think about it. You can focus on the other things. So personally, I've created a habit of whenever I walk through a door, I check all my pockets, and I have never left the house without my keys, my wallet, and my phone. It's never happened. The second I developed that habit, I've never left the house without my keys, my wallet, and my phone. And it probably will never happen because that habit is so strongly ingrained into my brain. So, any habit that you can possibly think of, I want you to implement it on the biggest scale you can. If it's a structure during your day, if it's waking up and jumping right into deep work, whatever it may be, figure out what habit is going to help you the most. Start with one, implement it, and then you can add on to it. So writing down your goals and reading testimonials in the morning is a fantastic habit. Time blocking your week every Sunday night's what I used to do. I don't have to do it anymore because my daily schedule is pretty much solidified. I don't have to think about it. But time blocking is until you get really good at it. Maybe every morning you do it, and then you do it once a week to make sure everything is efficient as possible. Using phrases like, does this or this work better for you? That to me has become a habit. When I'm asking my significant other where she wants to eat, I don't say, well, what do you want? Which is usually, right? It's like, oh, well, what do you want? I don't know. What do you want? I say, do you want Chinese or do you want Mexican? Oh, I want Chinese. Cool. Let's go get Chinese. Like I've just controlled the options. Right? Maybe one of the habits is speaking in analogies to better coach your clients and communicate. So you just start coming up with these analogies and these different stories to make it easier for someone to digest the information. That's a habit and a skill that you can learn. Habits like systems make it easier for us to live our day to day by taking away that extra effort required to get something done. All right, you're going to put things on autopilot, wearing the same outfit, minimalism, following a schedule, creating routines morning and night. Get it out of your brain so that your brain can focus on the other things. If your brain's on autopilot because it does it all the time, like turning off a light switch, do you really have to think about reaching and turning it off, or do you just walk past it and hit it? That's an autopilot feature of your brain. That's what I'm going to call it, an autopilot feature. You don't have to think about it. It just happens. Right? Moving out of the way of something. You don't have to think about it. Your body just moves. We want to create that automatic response to other things. Right? So you've controlled time. You've controlled tasks. Now you have to control your tools. Right? A tool needs to have multiple purposes or it is completely useless. All right? Everything you are going to put into your day-to-day needs to have multiple purposes or it is useless. Don't spend time learning how to do something if it only has one purpose. That's a complete waste of time. Right? This goes for video conferencing software. This goes for your signature training system. You should be able to use it for multiple solutions, and that's why we test and refine it. If it can't work in and out of the context that you created it for, it's good, but it's not great. Your video editing software, there's no need to have a video editing software that can only do social media and can't do online courses. Right? You're spending all this time learning one thing when it's not as flexible as it could be. Your computer shouldn't just be for sending emails. Right? It should be for research. It should be for creating. It should be for hosting your online course, whatever it may be. Your camera. You shouldn't just get a camera that only does 360 and only use it for motorcycle riding. You should use it for other things. Figure out how to use the 360 camera for other things. And microphones. I'll tell you quickly, the microphone that I'm wearing right now, which is underneath my shirt, was not the first microphone I bought. I have a big, massive podcast microphone. And the only thing that microphone is good for is podcasting. I cannot use it for this. I cannot use it for my courses. I cannot use it for my online coaching. The only thing I can use it for is podcast, because that's the type of podcast mic that it was invented for, right? Like, it has a very specific specs to it. The lavalier microphone that I'm wearing, I could use for so many other things. I could record a podcast with it. I could record an interview with it. I can do this with it. I can use it for my online coaching. I can use it for my video lessons on my courses, my audiobooks, anything. I could use this lavalier microphone, the small microphone underneath my shirt, that I can't use the bigger microphone for. So it has to have multiple purposes. I learned that when I got the second microphone. Right? You also don't want to use things just for one purpose. So getting a tool for one purpose is one thing, but if you're going to be consuming on social media, you should also be reaching out on social media. Right? If you're going to be using Google and YouTube for entertainment, also use it for learning and researching. Learn how to use it effectively in researching and watching videos that might not be interesting, but are highly educational. Right? Clients. Yes, you provide a service for money, but also get feedback and testimonials and referrals to improve your program, right? And then additional resources that you make. If you're going to spend the time making videos or a course or a PDF download, you need to find out how many things one video can be used for. Don't overdo it. What we talked about yesterday, right? Find the supporting problems that you could put into the video that are going to make it 10 times better, right? Now, let's look at some video conferencing software. I'm going to give my recommendations. You pick whatever software you want to use. All right. The secret here is to pick a software and then become the expert on it. Just like creating a signature training system. You don't need to do that for your software, although you could. All right. Now, the big three that I recommend is either Zoom, Kajabi, or Google Meet. You could use whatever you want. If you have a different platform, a different service, that's totally fine. These are the three that I recommend. Kajabi, Google Meet, or Zoom, right? And you want to ask yourself, what do I need this to do? It's got to have multiple purposes, otherwise it's useless. What do I need this to do? And will I use these tools available? And can I use those tools for multiple things? So it could have a whole bunch of things, but if it doesn't really suit you, then what was the point, right? And if it only has one feature and the other two don't, is it really necessary switching over? If, let's say, you already use Zoom and Kajabi just has one extra feature, is it worth switching over to Kajabi when you're really accustomed to Zoom? Probably not. All right. So what do you need it to do? I want you to sit down. You can even do it right now and think about everything you might want it to do. Definitely what you do want it to do, or what you might want it to do as a software. And then you're going to find the option that best fits those things. You could use AI and say, hey, I need a video conferencing software that's going to do this. Can you point me in the right direction? AI will tell you exactly which one you need. All right. So here's my list of what I needed my video conferencing software to do. I need screen sharing. I need to be able to record my sessions. And these video conferencing softwares are for coaching clients, right? I need to be able to share my screen. I need to be able to do recording. I really want unlimited time. I could go as long as I wanted. I want unlimited guests. So if they want to bring family members in, we can do that. I need a good quality. Can't just be a garbage video conferencing software. I need to be able to set the adjustments on the camera so that everything looks professional and good. I need to be able to take possible notes in there, chat features in case the microphone's not working or the video's not working. I got to be able to message them. And then the ease of use for me and my clients. It's got to be easy for me to use, but it also has to be intuitive, because although I might become the expert in it because I'm using it every day, if my client's not using it every day, then it needs to be easier for them to use. So then you want to figure out, well, now that I have this list, what am I going to use these things for? Screen sharing. You could show videos, presentations, and diagrams, and et cetera, all the things we made yesterday on delivering. Right? If I make those things, then I can't show my clientele. It doesn't work. It doesn't help me. Recordings. Sending videos to them after the session. So if I record our session together, I'm then going to show it to you. I'm going to send it to you so that you can go back and watch it later. That's really important to me. I want people to be able to go back and say, what did Michael say? They could watch it every single day until our next session and really ingrain it into your mind. That's totally fine. I could also use it for social media posting. So if we have a really good conversation that's really in-depth or scientific and I feel other people would benefit from it, hey, can I use this snippet of the recording for my social media? Of course. Then I also want to use it as assurance that we did go over a topic if needed in the future. Now, this has only happened to me once or twice where a client said, we never went over that. I'm not happy with the service. You didn't explain that to me. I said, I completely understand. Let's go back. We'll look. If I didn't say it, then we'll continue training and we'll fix it together. If I didn't say it, and I honestly didn't say it, then I'll give you your money back. And she was fine with that agreement, and I did say it in the video. I did say it during our session. So it became an insurance policy, essentially, for me as a trainer who's giving out this advice. Because some people could say, well, you never said that, and they might have a perfectly trained dog now and get a refund. Not that it's fair, and not that it's a good personality trait of some people, but people have those things, all right? So you want to have that kind of insurance maybe. Possible notes. I want to be able to write out the outline for the session before we get started, so if they jump in before I'm there, they can see everything. All right, I want to be able to write down their homework for after the session so they can take a screenshot of it, or they can actually have a copy of those action items, and they don't have to remember it, or they don't have to write it down themselves. They can also ask questions while I'm talking. If I'm in the middle of explaining something and I got two clients, maybe it's a husband and wife, or maybe it's brother and sister, whatever it is, they want to be able to write down their questions without interrupting me so that they don't forget, and I can keep my train of thought going. And then different chat features. If I need to send them a link, if I need to send them a video I want them to pull up and watch while I just talk, or maybe we lose connection, or whatever it may be, I want to be able to have a chat feature to be able to communicate with them on just another level, even if it's just as an insurance. Unlimited guests. You want to have family members attend the training. Maybe you want to bring a guest trainer on to help them explain something that might be outside of the experience. You want to bring a vet in, something like that. All right, you want to be able to have unlimited guests. Now, Zoom has screen sharing, recording, does not have unlimited time, does not have unlimited guests. The quality is okay. You can't really set many adjustments. It doesn't have a note section. It has a chat feature, and it's fairly easy to use. Right? So my clients know how to use Zoom. It's one of the biggest video conferencing software. Now, compared to Google Meet, screen sharing, yep. Recording, yep. Unlimited time, yes. The unlimited guests is a max of 250. Good quality, fairly good quality. Setting adjustments, yep. Possible notes, yes. I can actually open up a Google Doc because it's Google Meet, so I can open a Google Doc and they can share it. Chat features in there, ease of use for me and my clients. All I got to do is say go to meet.google.us. There we go. We start an instant meeting, or I can send them a link. And then Kajabi, which is my absolute favorite. Screen sharing, yes. Recording, yes. Unlimited time, yes. Unlimited guests. Non-unlimited guests, it's slightly below Google Meet. It's at 200, but I don't feel that I'm going to have 200 people in one meeting. I think that's quite a large family. Good quality, absolutely. Setting adjustments, yep. Possible notes. I actually get an entire client portal. Chat features, yep. Ease of use, yes, because it's on my website. So all they have to do is sign into their portal, and they'll be able to see that. So it's all right there. Now, making the most out of what you have. Whichever software you use, equipment you have, or tools you decide to implement, you should become the expert in it. How do you do X? How do you do this? Right? You need to become an expert in the topic, otherwise you're going to fail in the long term. You have to become proficient with it. You can't just be basic at it. The more you use it, the better you're going to get at it. And so you don't want to wait to figure it out. Start using it in everything that you possibly can and try to play around with it and figure it out together. Not only are you going to get familiar with it, but you want to become proficient at it. All right, extreme ownership. Take a complete ownership over everything. Figure out how to create things. If a product has a software, the software that you're using has courses or a help center, use it. Kajabi is a wonderful example of this. They have their Kajabi's help center. So if you got questions, they want to help you figure that out. All right. Now, setting up and tearing down. It's always easiest to have something you need already set up. But if you don't have it set up, then these are my 3 steps or less. You're going to create the scene, you're going to start it up, and then you're going to square everything away. All right. So scene, make sure the scene is clear and clean. You want to be professional and distraction free. If you need extra space for demos, then you want to look for that as well within your scene. Now, setting up and tearing down. You want to make, well, we missed something here. Lagging, hold on. There we go, startup. So you're going to start up your computer, your phone, or your meeting and pull up any notes, resources, and digital files that you need. If you're on step 2 of your program, pull up step 2, slideshow, something like that. And then you're going to square it away. So make sure you are all squared away with water, professional appearance, your attire, and the framing and squaring of how you need. So you don't want your camera all crooked and all over the place. Everything should be nice, clean, and organized. With time blocking, you should have enough time to set up without rushing. But the practice is if you only have 30 seconds. right? You don't want to be all over the place rushing to the desk, be like, I'm right there, let me put the microphone on, and let me get the lights on and whatnot, right? Have everything squared away by using time blocking. Give yourself 10 minutes, give yourself a half hour if you need, give yourself 5 minutes, and then 3 minutes, and then 2 seconds, and then there you go, all right? So only get ready once a day. That's one of the benefits of the time blocking. Instead of doing virtual coaching in the morning and then virtual coaching later on, do virtual coaching once a day. Super simple, all right? Anything is a hammer. It's one of my favorite phrases. Anything is a hammer. If you have to drive a nail, you will find something to use. A rock, a book, a phone. You will find something to use. So if you have to, you can force things to work in your favor. You just have to get creative. If you don't have a laptop that works, do the video coaching on your phone. Use an iPad. Right? You could save yourself money and time by just trying to figure out how to use things that maybe weren't intended for that purpose, but work really, really well. If you're going to use a webcam, maybe you just stack it on a couple of books so that it's nice up and high. Okay? You want to use things to your advantage. Google Docs for diagrams, social media for thumbnail creation. We talked about this yesterday. Right? Use Zoom for video conferences. Or film your courses on Zoom. People do that. Keep all their notes in one digital comment, and then you can share with them. You just have to kind of play around and find what works, what is easiest for your clients, and how you can provide the most amount of value. And you always, always, always want to validate before spending. Buy the free or the cheapest version possible. Everything I ever bought was free first, and then I moved my way up. Once you can no longer satisfy your need with it, spend more on the best option you can afford. Now, my dad taught me this skill. I wanted to play golf. I didn't end up becoming a big golf person, but what he did was he got me these very cheap set of clubs. He let me play in the backyard, and I learned how to play, and then I moved on to something else. If he had gotten me really expensive golf clubs, which could be thousands and thousands of dollars because I pounded the hell out of him to play golf, they would have been a waste. Right? Now, thankfully, I did not spend thousands of dollars on golf clubs since I was only slightly interested in it. Now, the exact same thing happened when I was talking about starting my online dog training business. I started with YouTube playlists, and then I moved to Teachable, and then I moved to a company called Thinkific, and then Kajabi. Now, Teachable is the cheapest of the three. Thinkific goes up a little bit, and Kajabi went way up. Right? So the software I use now is 10 times more expensive than Teachable. It's 10 times more expensive. So Teachable was $39 a month. What I use now for Kajabi is $39.99 a month. It's $399 a month. So if you're going to be doing anything, any software, any tools that you're using, you need to validate them first. All right? Validate as much as you possibly can first. So there it is. To operate at peak efficiency, you need to control 3 things: your time, your tools, and your tasks. If you can do that, you will operate at full efficiency. Don't spend money that you don't have just yet. You're not there. Focus on the one thing. What's the one thing I could do today to push myself forward, to drive my business in the next direction? How can I accomplish more in a shorter amount of time? The 2-minute rule. All right. And anything is a hammer. Use what you already have. You don't have to go out and spend all this money and buy this new equipment. Use what you already have. Practice with it. Learn how to use it. And when it no longer satisfies what you need, then and only then should you upgrade in order to satisfy. All right? That is day 3 of the 5-day online dog trainer summit and mastermind. We're going to head on over to the Q&A session right now. So if you still are with us, you still got time today, let's jump over to that Q&A session. I know we went about 10 minutes over. We're going over a lot. We got so much information packed into this stuff, all right? So write down your questions. I will see you guys over there. And if you're not joining us for the Q&A session, make sure you can always email me your Q&As, your questions, and I'll answer them in the Q&A session. So email me any of questions that you have. If you have not scheduled your one-on-one mentoring session, make sure you do that. And if I don't see you, I'll see you tomorrow for day 4, where we're going over selling your online coaching service. I'll see you guys tomorrow.